Hillary Clinton's dream of becoming the first female president is looking less and less likely, at least this time around. Now, was her campaign hurt by the fact that she is a woman? Geraldine Ferraro was Walter Mondale's running mate in 1984, the first woman on a major party's ticket for high office. And MSNBC analyst Rachel Maddow hosts her own show on the liberal Air America radio network. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
If we ever had any questions that gender has played an issue in this campaign, just turn to page A9 of today's New York Times. I want to show you this ad. It's by a PAC called WomenCount, and it says, "Not so fast. Hillary's voice is our voice, and she is speaking for all of us," and they urge her to stay in this race. We want her to stay until every vote is cast, every vote is counted, and we know that our voices are heard. Jerry, you are a supporter of Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
She says she is fighting to really tear down the highest and hardest glass ceiling in politics. If she fails, and the numbers right now are against her, can she blame that loss at all on gender?
Well, she might, but I certainly will, and certainly other people who have been involved in this, just watching the campaign will. And I started as early as December complaining about this when the first Philadelphia debate was held, and where she was absolutely beaten up by everybody on the stage, so much so that Bill Richardson at one point said, "Stop it already."
Yeah, but there were a lot of people who said then she was trying to have it both ways, Rachel, that when her husband came out and said, "Oh, the boys are beating up on her," suddenly her gender mattered.
She also referred to herself as a girl. "I'm your girl" at that point. I think that you can talk...
That was after. That was later. That was considerably later.
You can talk about gender, and you can reference the fact that she's going to be potentially the first woman presidential nominee without necessarily being sexist, I think. I mean, to a certain extent, it was a very inspiring thing about her candidacy.
It wasn't so much that they were referring to her gender and that was being sexist. What they were doing is the way they attacked her, the way the moderator also handled that debate. I mean, it went on for 2 hours, and Barack Obama, as a matter of fact, afterwards said, "Well, you know, I was in a debate and I was attacked for 15 minutes and I didn't bring up how I looked." Well, I assume he wasn't referring to the fact that he is a male, tall, very handsome, and young. I assume he was discussing his color. I responded with, typical male, doesn't know the difference between 15 minutes and 2 hours. And she was beaten up for 2 hours. But I continued that all along. The New York Times ran a story right after that where I complained. And what happened was I was accused of playing the gender card. What happened in this race is every time you raise the issue and say, "That's sexist in the way they're dealing," you're accused of playing the gender card. We know she's female. Yeah, latent sexism has been around in this country for a long time. In this campaign, it was patent.
But you've accused Obama of being terribly sexist and said you may not vote for him if he is the nominee. What specifically has he done that is sexist?
I'll tell you several things, but that is not what I said. What I said is what was recorded in the Daily News today, which was, I'm taking my cue from Michelle Obama, who in February of this year, when she was asked whether or not she would support Hillary if she were the candidate and not her husband, Michelle paused for a minute and she said, "I would have to think about that." Now, to be quite frank, Meredith, if I've gone through a series of months watching this thing, if I chose Hillary as my candidate in June of last year, July, against other people that I thought were equally as competent, namely Chris Dodd, Joe Biden, Bill Richardson, and John Edwards, if I chose her because she could run the country in any way the same as they could, and then, gee, isn't that terrific that she's a woman too, and she'll make a difference for women and children in this country, you know, that's not a sexist way of approaching this campaign. How could I, after watching what was done all this time, as soon as he becomes nominated, say, "Oh yeah, I'm with him"? I have complained about how this campaign was run, and I don't want to see another woman get attacked the same way when she decides to do it as well. You asked for specifics, and let me just give you specifics. The women are looking at how this has gone on. She mentioned after Philadelphia that she had, before Philadelphia, that she had gone out and she learned to shoot a gun. He kind of ridiculed her. Who does she think? Like a stand-up comedian walking up and down with the mic in his hand. Who does she think she is, Annie Oakley? And then when something else was said about the campaign, this thing, flicking it off, diminishing her. I mean, sorry, that's not done.
Rachel,
and women don't like that.
Is he in trouble with women voters? People who feel this was our time and it was taken from us. Are they going to blame Barack Obama?
I think some will. I mean, when you cite those examples, I didn't see either of those examples as sexist. I saw this as him referencing a hip hop video where Jay-Z does that.
That's generational. She's had a problem with women. I mean, I don't see this hip hop stuff. Maybe that's cool, and maybe that's why a lot of people are voting for. But I didn't see that.
Well, maybe it does.
But I think that's important, that our perception is different. That both of us, as women looking at the Democratic candidates, seeing that treatment differently, depending on our own lens.
I got to also tell you, my husband will sometimes look at this thing, and if he says something, he'll go, and because it offended him as well.
You know, when race became a big issue in this campaign, right after Reverend Wright's comments, Barack Obama gave a public, really a national address, and he dealt with it, you know, head on. Now, should she have done the same thing with gender?
I would have loved to have seen it.
He did not deal with it head on. And Meredith, there is a real difference in this country. It is not okay to be racist. It is just not. It is almost acceptable to be sexist. When she appeared at a rally up in New Hampshire, somebody held up a sign that said, you know, iron my shirt. Now, suppose somebody had gotten up at a Barack Obama rally and said, shine my shoes. The press would have been on top of that, shine my shoes, and on top of that person saying, what are you, a racist? Nothing done. When Hillary, I barely saw a story on this thing. I think also that it's not only the Obama campaign. It is also how the press has handled this. And I've had numerous arguments with some high-profile friends of mine in the press about this.
Well, but if she loses, will it be because she's a woman or because she's the particular woman that she is? I'm giving the rap sign.
Depends on who you ask. I mean, I think it's in the eye of the beholder to a certain extent. I think racism and sexism inflect the way we see everybody in this country. Putting a poli-sci quantitative assessment on whether that's the reason why this ended this way, we'll never know.
After we have to go, I'm sorry, but this conversation will not end. Long after the election, it will continue.
Women, it's also the white voters, the middle class, the people in the hardworking blue-collar workers that are looking at this as well. So.
Geraldine Ferraro, thanks for coming in. Rachel Maddow, as always, thank you.
Thanks,